Ottoline, it's great to speak with you. First of all, I just wanted to ask you about your thoughts on this conference. We've had 2 days of people gathering to mark 75 years since Schrödinger's What is Life lectures, people from lots of different disciplines, exploring lots of different themes. How has it been for you? Have you enjoyed?
Absolutely. I love this kind of meeting that is much broader than the kind of typical academic conference and that brings people together from all those different disciplines. I think maybe the original What is Life book shows exactly what happens when people who are traditionally thinking about one discipline bring their thoughts to another discipline, and that's where you really get the exciting new ideas. And if you've got multiple people all doing that at the same time, that's really how it works well, I think.
Has Schrödinger or What is Life or any of Schrödinger's work influenced you in any way?
I wouldn't be able to point to a particular, this idea made me do this or that, but I'm definitely a major advocate of interdisciplinarity, and the institute where I currently work, a large part of what we're trying to do is bring together people from physics and maths and computer science with the more traditional life science, molecular genetics type approach. So we're building a very interdisciplinary environment where all of those ideas are flowing around, and certainly that's kind of very much in the spirit of the Schrödinger What is Life book.
Could you tell me a little bit about your research and the work that you do?
Absolutely. I work on plant developmental biology. So maybe at heart I'm a developmental biologist. I think the it's a really fascinating question in biology, how you go from a single fertilized egg, a single cell, to these complex multicellular organisms with all the different cell types in the right time at the right place doing the right thing. So that's the kind of big question. But I'm particularly interested in how plants do that because they have way more flexibility than animals. So you think about yourself, pretty much everybody on the planet has 2 arms and 2 legs, and the basic body plan's the same. Genetically identical plants can wind up looking incredibly different from one another because they wrap into their developmental decisions information coming from the environment. And so that extra dimension, I think, it gives the whole question a kind of extra frisson, which I very much enjoy. And it's also kind of important to understand how plants work since they do feed us.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about developmental biology because my own PhD was in developmental biology, not in plants, in zebrafish. But it feels like over this last few days there's been lots of great conversations about embracing the complexity of our different fields.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's happening with developmental biology? And if so, what do you think is the most exciting thing happening in development at the moment?
I would say development has always been kind of at the forefront of that kind of thinking because a lot of what we're thinking about in the context of this complexity is actually about multi-scale problems. It's about how information moves up and down the different scales of organization in biological systems, and developmental biology is kind of the quintessential multi-scale problem precisely because it's about single cells to tissues to organs to entire bodies and the molecular events that underpin those transitions. So absolutely the kind of bigger picture questions about how you think about that kind of complexity are for me one of the most exciting things about this meeting. And also, I do think there's a kind of moment in biology going on now where many, many different fields are coming to exactly that same point and are asking themselves, what tools do we have kind of experimentally but also intellectually to understand those kinds of complexities? And so that's one of the things I'm hoping that maybe will come out of this meeting 75 years on is a group of people really working together to think about intellectual tools for dealing with that complexity.
So in your own area of research with plants, how do you see that developing over the next few years?
The key questions in plant development map very nicely onto all kinds of other systems, including development in other systems, but more broadly, the kind of general picture of self-organization and these dynamic self-organizing networks that work together to drive forward the process, that kind of thinking comes up over and over again, including in the way your brain is rewired, the way different organisms are patterned, but also in financial systems and so on. So I think the questions in plant developmental biology are very broadly relevant, and I think that the tools we have available to address those questions will help us to make progress in a plant developmental biology context that's maybe more difficult to make in other situations. We have a lot of tools for very precise manipulation. We have a lot of tools these days for really impressive observation, which also are available to the developmental biologists, some of the extraordinary microscopy tools and so on. But I think in plants, there are approaches we can take that are harder to take in other systems, so we have an important contribution to make more generally. And of course, we need to understand plants anyway.
Well, that's a perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you.